I'm here with Aaron Wacker, and we are kicking off a discussion about the new Green Lantern Origins story that follows Justice League Task Force. And Aaron is going to be playing the famed Alan Scott, very first Green Lantern, and is also a co-writer to myself and Kevin Cowell, and we're hoping to have a pretty nice storyline for an origin. It really brings in a lot of things from the past in order to make this legitimate and fun and exciting for all the viewers. So hey, welcome.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. I think it, just from reading the script, the storyline, I think flows really nicely, and I, like you said, I like how it goes back to touching point of where his actual origin story comes from, and then we're putting our own twist on it. So I like that.
Yeah, there's so many pieces to this, and so I've known the character for a while, and I'm going to admit that most of that script before you and Kevin pulled into the script and started helping with some rewrites and stuff on it for the co-writing happened in, I voice texted that almost the whole script on about a 45-minute drive from where I live down to Grand Rapids.
Wow.
Just because I know the character. I've been around the character for years, and but what I did not know was we really interlaced some origin stuff together that I didn't even realize from the way back from the 1940s.
Right.
So as you mentioned, it is very legitimate, the whole backstory for your character.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's good. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I was just gonna say, because of, we're tying this in with Justice League Task Force, we kind of had to put our own spin on it, because we're in a different universe, different dimension. Like, so his origin story is going to have some sort of effect on our reality versus the other reality where the Justice League all disappeared. Spoiler warnings for anybody who hasn't seen Justice League Task Force yet. But yeah, so we kind of have to do our own sort of spin on the origin story, but we're trying to keep it relatively close, because anybody who knows comics or knows anything about like alternate universes and things like that, or the multiverse, is every decision we make creates a new timeline and a new reality. So we're going parallel, but things are going to be off a little bit. Either you're going to get a different looking Barry Allen might be colored versus a Barry Allen who's white and has a wife and kids or whatever, So that one might be colored and single. Or like now we're seeing in the new comic book series is that like it's actually different genders. So we're getting the same characters, but now they're women or they're men versus what they were from the original series. But that can be done if you have a multiverse, which is kind of what we're creating.
Yeah, and when you get into the whole infinite Earth dichotomy, that, as you said, any decision could have so many different outcomes. We take one, but in other infinite universes, somebody's taking another one, or maybe the exact same one, but it keeps splitting and splitting and splitting.
Right.
And I'm probably sitting next to a billion of myself, and so are you in this interview, doing it a different way. But
Right.
so that's the whole infinite Earth idea. Um, and you mentioned Justice League Task Force, and I'll put up a URL up here for everybody to be able to follow. So please go see that, because that's what kicked off this, and what's going to be a number of origin stories for those characters and little side stories. But yeah, I was doing some more research on this, and I knew that your character was a train engineer at one time, and we interlaced that into it. But what I didn't realize is, after he was a train engineer, and before that he took 2 years of medical school, which I wasn't even aware of. But after that, he was a journalist in Gotham and had his own radio station.
Okay. Cool.
And so I don't know if Kevin was just a genius in how he was writing the original script, or it worked out for the story, and
Right.
it just, let's just pull one of those infinite Earth things back in and drop it into our pocket here,
Right.
because it puts your origin story with Alan Scott like spot on, completely canon.
Yeah, exactly. So uh it's it's like he's bounced all over with careers. It's insane. Like just just those three, that's not typically like what a normal person would do. Like you don't go
Yeah.
to medical school and then go and become a train engineer, because that's a lot of different classes that you have to take. Like I don't know if people watching this, or if you know, but like I've actually looked into what you have to do for a train engineer, and you have to have a degree in engineering, and then you have to have special classes in actually train conducting engineering skills. So it's a lot. It's hard to actually become a train conductor, because I've looked into it in the past. So
Well,
that
and
already,
even back then, a lot of them had to be boiler certified, because they were either burning coal or wood or
oh
whatever
yeah,
else, and doing steam boilers, and so it got even more complex. But to go from, hey, I'm going to be 2 years, I might become a doctor, to I'm going to become an engineer, and then I'm giving all that up after something else happens, and now I'm going to be a broadcaster.
yeah, that's a lot to go through. That's for sure. So, but it makes the character very more complex and more dynamic, and makes you wonder like what he's gone through to make all these different decisions, and all the different uh, jobs that he's had. Like how does that build him up as a character, as a person? Like what is his end goal? And that's what we're trying to capture, I think, in
Yeah.
this whole origin story, and then maybe down the line of what comes next.
Right. Well, and it becomes even more complex, and we won't get into too much of the storyline, but your character takes another change when he becomes Green Lantern, and there's a partnership that gets developed uh, that really creates the Green Lantern itself. Um, and you look back at when Green Lantern, this version of Green Lantern came about in 1940. Um,
Yeah.
and
First
yeah,
comic 1942 or something like that, I think.
Martin Odell and Bill Finger. I guess Martin Odell started the character, and then they brought Bill Finger in to round it out. And Bill Finger's he's had his fingers into all kinds of DC characters. I got to throw at least one bad pun out, otherwise it wouldn't be me. Um, And there's a lot of folks that their only introduction to Alan Scott has been through the Big Bang Theory. And I don't know if you've seen
Yeah.
any of the episodes there where they incorrectly state that he is invulnerable to two things. They say he's invulnerable to yellow, and they say he's invulnerable to wood. And so you could basically defeat him with a number 2 pencil. Not not correct. It's not correct because he is the only Green Lantern that does not have a vulnerability to yellow.
Okay, I didn't know that.
But his, because of the origins of where he gets his power, he is vulnerable to natural things like wood.
Okay,
So,
kind of makes. He was, because so the Alan Scott version of Green Lantern, for anybody that doesn't know, is the very first Green Lantern that came about before the Green Lantern Corps was even in existence. I'm not going to spoil too much, but like you said, he gets a partnership and gets the powers granted to him. So he actually isn't going to be your typical green and black suit type superhero, because he's the very first original one, and his power doesn't necessarily straight derive from the ring necessarily. So his power comes from elsewhere, from this partnership, and therefore he's going to be a little bit different. And so there are different, like you said, vulnerabilities, different things that he's capable of, and where his power derives from. So, yeah. I didn't know about that's interesting.
Yeah, and I guess I got brainwashed from watching Big Bang, and I, thinking, oh gosh, he's vulnerable to yellow and wood. I don't remember that, but it must be true because I just saw it on TV. And I looked back at it and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That's he's actually not. And your character, not through this origin story, but depending on how far we can take it, as you mentioned, he's very complex, has done many things in life, and his Green Lantern ends up eventually changing many different times, and when when Crisis on Infinite Earths takes place and all of the Infinite Earths crash into an Earth Prime or an Earth One, he ends up still being there, but ends up changing significantly. And I have a little memento of our task force back here too, but I found out through some research that Alan Scott was also he represented Chaos at one point in time, and he and Fate ended up duking it out, being a Lord of Order with Dr. Fate, and Green Lantern being the representative of Chaos.
Oh, okay.
So
cool.
I don't know. We may be in two different corners at some point in time, depending on how all this plays out. We'll have to see.
That would be a very interesting movie to make on that one. That's for sure.
I think it would be. I think it would be.
There'd be a lot
especially
of effects in that one, though.
Oh yeah, and that's a lot of people are wondering, how are we going to make Green Lantern visual? How are we going to make it work? And we are definitely working on some things to make this a realistic Green Lantern, and one that really is able to wield the power.
Yeah, I think we've thrown around a couple of good ideas of how to go about making as far like zero to very low budget movie with the special effects and how to make like the character fly or uh, shoot like his energy beams and things like that. I think we got some good ideas for that.
Yeah, no, I think we're going to be able to pull that together, and we've got a good team. We've got a great team. We've got some people pulled in from Justice League Task Force that'll be helping out, and just I'm excited by how we're going to pull out or basically pull this forward from the point in time with Justice League Task Force, and then just you get to just go off with your character and shoot off into really developing what is a glimpse in Justice League Task Force, and now you start rounding this character out and making it your own character.
Yeah. So and that's the part I look forward to is the being able to actually develop this character from like groundbreaking before he even gets his powers into what he becomes after he gets his powers. Like that's the thing that I'm most excited about is actually being able to develop with the character and kind of put everything into it. It'll take a lot of acting skills on my part, but I'm pretty confident I can handle it.
Oh
So,
yeah, I'm excited to see how you make this character blossom, and we've talked about Alan Scott's transitions and transformations in his life, and part of the storyline is one of those transitions for Alan Scott, and I'm confident that Aaron Wacker is going to pull that transition off.
yeah, I look forward to it. I've already been practicing a couple of the scenes. I won't say any more about it, but I have been practicing, so I think I can do it.
No, it's gonna. I'm excited. Those who have been able to glimpse what we're doing, what we're putting together, seem to be pretty excited about what they're seeing, and then also some tie-ins at the end for the future of Green Lantern, and uh, I think it's going to be legitimate. We've hidden some Easter eggs in here and there that people should be able to find. Yeah, one or five or few of them here and there.
Yeah,
But
the fun part is those little Easter eggs, and I hope, and if people like, especially the people who know the character or are big into the comics and things like that, I think people will definitely catch some of the stuff that we're trying to pull in from the comics and from the original character and stuff from like the task force and everything. So like if people, the hardcore fans will, I know will catch the stuff we're throwing in there for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and I'm hoping they just get that. I always get kind of this grin on my face when one of those things hit. Like the most recent Batman movie, there were over 10 Easter eggs that they popped into there that I think a lot of people walked out of and were like they were oblivious to them even being in there, and but they were subtle enough to where like you look around to see if anyone else is reacting to it, but like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they just put that in there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's gonna be a fun ride. I'm excited to be working with you again on another Justice League tie-in here, and it's I just hope we have a lot of fun with it and we end up creating something that we're proud of when we're done. And I with the direction it's going, I can see that being the case.
Oh yeah. So I just have a question: is do you see any further movies coming off this one, or are we going to after this one try to tie it into Justice League Task Force, or are we going to just keep going with Green Lantern movies? So like, do you have a vision for that, or does Kevin have a vision for that?
I could see it. There's a couple things. We're laying the groundwork at the end of this movie to allow for another one to pull in. So I could see this not being the last one where we see Alan Scott doing things on his own as a secular character.
Okay.
At the same time, I mean, Alan Scott was a member of the Justice Society of America. We have the Justice League Task Force currently. And as we talk about Infinite Earths, I could see at some point in time a team up with Alan Scott, and could be Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, any number of characters to also have a team up movie. But there's so much reference material that we can work off of just for Green Lantern. And it's not only Green Lantern, but it's Sentinel. It's Green Lantern, Lord of Chaos. There's all these other complex characters that are Alan Scott that we could dive into, and really you could flesh his character out in ways that would allow those folks that maybe aren't quite as familiar with this version of Green Lantern, they'd really understand the complexity of what eventually in the DC universe becomes the most powerful Green Lantern.
Yeah. As you could say, we would bring the character to the light. You know?
I'm all for that. I'm a little green with envy right now.
Nice. So, okay, so you're kind of saying what I kind of thought we were going to be doing. So I know we're DC, but a lot of people know like the whole Marvel cinematic universe or whatever within the last 15 20 years is.
Yeah.
So the Green Lantern character, we're kind of doing like its own side off story, kind of like Thor or the Iron Man series. And then Justice League Task Force is when they team up and with the rest of their team members. So like the Avengers, they team up, but you still have all the Iron Man movies, or you have the Captain America movies, and they're all fighting their own character or their own villains, and they're all developing their own characters off to the side, having their own movies. But every now and then they get pulled in, and it's all still tied together, and they'll get like pulled in at like the end of their movie or whatever back into doing like Avengers 2 or whatever. Is that kind of what you're talking about? Like we're thinking of this character?
I think there's going to be some transitions back and forth. And to be honest, the assignment on this particular one was to do a movie short.
Right.
And it's been very difficult not just to take off on this thing, because like I said, the original part of the script that I had sent off to you and Kevin was a 45-minute drive voice texting into my phone, the script.
Okay.
And it just flowed so fast and so easy. And I'm like, I need to stop, because I'm feeling like if I go much farther, it's going to take us off into a much longer, much deeper. It's not going to be a short anymore. It's going to take off on its own. So,
but is that necessarily bad? Like if we made this into a full-length movie as well, or I try to, anyways. I guess whatever you want to say. I've had. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
So I've had feedback from the first part 1 of Justice League Task Force from friends and families, and they all say it's too short already. So, and that's just from part 1. And I said, well, it was originally longer, but they had to break it up into 2 parts so that we can make the continuity of it flow better and get the editing better between the two. And so I was able to kind of, douse the flames a little bit on the negative feedback on that part. But I think if we try to make it a little bit longer, or any of these next movies, and that goes out to you, Kevin, for the one you're working on, if we can make them a little bit longer, I think people would be a little bit happier or be more apt to continue watching. I'll say it that way.
Yeah. No, and to me, what we're doing is basically one comic book.
Yes.
We've put together a story on one comic book. And what would be exciting would be to take a series of books, 1 through 6 or 1 through 8, that has that developed storyline with a particular villain or a couple villains. Actually, and Alan Scott was the very first superhero for DC to fight 2 villains at one time.
Oh, all right.
Before that, it was one person at a time.
Right.
And by villain, I mean somebody who's amped up, powered up, and like Superman there'd be 5 or 6 people that are shooting at him with guns, bad guys,
right?
But they weren't villains. And Alan Scott was the first one to fight 2 individuals, and I believe it was Vandal Savage and it was Solomon Grundy. He fought at the same time.
Okay.
So that's how groundbreaking Alan Scott is.
Yeah, it goes way back there.
It goes way back. And would it be interesting? I don't know if it's through Justice League or if there's an offshoot with Justice Society maybe at some point in time.
Mm-hmm.
But bringing those characters together in a team up, and the sky's the limit, because we've got multiverses, we've got timelines, we've got pretty much anything we can work with.
Right. Yeah. Makes it pretty easy for us.
Yes. Yep. A lot of material, and a lot of we can just be creative and take it in different directions, whatever way we want to go. So
yeah, that's the nice thing. Makes it easier for us.
Oh yeah. And we talk about whether it's a short or it's a longer movie. Originally this interview was going to be like 5 or 10 minutes, and I think we've been able to almost put a feature together. What we're talking about. It's such a great character, and I have a lot of excitement for how I know you're going to develop it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've always been a big fan of the Flash. So the Flash has always been my favorite character, and probably second to that for the DC universe is Green Lantern. I've always liked the Green Lantern character. I think he's actually OP, but they really downsized him and downscaled him in the anime series. Like they don't do him justice in the Justice League. So I think he's very more capable of doing things than they make him out to be. For the character, like especially for what like he can create, with his powers and things like that, and what he can do. Like on top of that, the actual people playing as the Green Lantern, the individuals, are very strong themselves. Not necessarily physically, but character-wise.
Right.
And so I've always liked the Green Lantern, but my buddy of mine, he's always been the one who's been the Green Lantern. So I was the Flash, and then I have one buddy who's the Batman, and then my other guy, he's always been Green Lantern as Hal Jordan character. So I don't want to necessarily step on his toes as playing as a character, and this actually is better for me because I'm not playing his version. I'm playing the Alan Scott version, so I don't feel so bad for like trespassing into the character he likes the most when we're growing up and drawing and goofing around with the characters we liked and stuff like that and the movies we make. So on our own versions.
Well, yeah, and Alan Scott eventually becomes one of the top 10 most overpowered super beings in the DC universe, because of his incorporation that creates his power, which you'll see in the origin story how that happens. But because that incorporation is so strong, it overpowers him at one point, or supercharges him. Maybe that's a better way, to where he's one of the top 10 super beings in the whole universe. I'm gonna really quick go back to something else, and I'm going to be dropping in probably a URL for this, but you mentioned the Flash character. I've watched a few of your episodes as Flash characters, so I'm gonna drop in a URL so somebody can jump over and take a look at those. But I had a lot of fun watching those and seeing with you and your buddies on what you've been doing, and makes for fun kind of a day in the life sort of.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, when you're not out fighting crime, what's your day look like as a superhero?
Yes.
And I had a lot of fun watching those. So just to let you know, those were enjoyable.
Yeah, that's the whole point of why we did it, because we're like, you always see them fighting, but we're like, well, what do they do when they're not fighting? Like, so we wanted to kind of just, have some fun and show that like they're people too, and they like to goof around and they have daily chores that they have to do and stuff. But yeah, it's fun doing those. I like them. We got more lined up. It's just a slow process because it's just two of us doing it.
Oh yeah.
But much in that. But there was something else I wanted to say about the overpoweredness, yeah, of the character. So a friend of mine, he was actually brought to my attention that like we were talking about the same thing about the DC characters being overpowered, and the cool thing is in the DC universe is that each character in is, as we said, overpowered to the point where they don't need the Justice League as a team. They don't need help. They take on world destruction, chaos, and enemies single-handedly, like each character does. And you see that time and time again through the comics, through even the series and TV shows and everything else, is those each character in the DC world can do the task of the Justice League by themselves. The only reason they bring in the Justice League together, or the task force, is because it might be outside their realm, or there's too many enemies they need help to defeat them. They're not saying that they can't do it alone. It's just they want some help to kind of stop the enemy quickly before too much destruction happens. Versus the Marvel world, you don't really get that so much. I mean, you don't see necessarily Captain America taking on something that's destroying the whole world or the universe, versus like you got Superman who can reverse time by flying around the world, and basically he could destroy the world with like punching it. He could go right through it if he wanted to. You got Green Lantern that can basically create thousands and millions of nuclear missiles and go into outer space and breathe in outer space and blasts the entire Earth, right? So like then you have the Flash who can travel in time, actually makes him stronger than Superman. He can walk through walls. I mean, because of his speed, like he can actually, hit Superman with such speed and force it pushes him back, which I really liked in the Justice League movie that came out, where they actually kind of did that a bit. When he just barely touched Superman, he actually pushed Superman backwards. And I don't know if too many fans caught that, but I caught that, and I was like, yes, finally they showed the Flash like at his true potential, even though he wasn't there yet. He was still developing also. But and then Hawk Girl takes on like whole armies of invaders. I mean, it's all these different characters of the Justice League are their own, like they can do a lot of damage by themselves, is what I'm trying to
Oh
say.
yeah. Yeah, and it seems like they're drawn to work together. And as you're talking about this, I'm thinking back to a meme that I always laugh at that when I see it. It's a picture of there's a lady in a canoe going down a rapid river, and it has a Robin who's in the river reaching out to her to grab her hand. Batman's holding Robin. Superman's holding Batman's arm, and he's holding a tree. And it says, Superman ought to be slapped for doing this. Because ultimately, he could just fly over, grab her hand, and pull her back in. But he's like, yeah, let's work together on this one. Yo, team, let's go.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah.
So I think sometimes they do it just because they're like, I want to work with someone else. I'm getting a little bit isolated here.
Yeah. It's just funner to have somebody else around to work with.
So good. I don't know what kind of chore I'm going to have editing this thing down to not being a 2-hour long discussion, but there we've hit on so many things during this talk, and again, I think it shows the excitement. It shows the knowledge behind what we're putting together, and the passion behind what we're doing to hopefully again make this into one heck of a kickoff for your character.
Yeah. Well, if you want to wrap it up now, we can, and then that puts it out about a half hour long.
I've got so much. The thing is, I got so much more. That's the problem.
Oh, I got you.
But at the same time, yeah, I mean, we got to keep the viewers in mind, and I don't know if our interview could be longer than the short.
Right. Yeah.
But it's good. Again, Aaron, I'm excited for us to start getting shooting going on this. I know we're gonna be able to put together something that has great continuity. Again, has Easter eggs in it, and that you really pull the character out so people can understand that transition that you talked about.
Oh yeah.
I'm excited.
I think the way it's written, it'll definitely. I think it'll help for sure. And I think we can do it.
I'm not. I'll share this one with you later. It's kind of another Easter egg that we put in there, and it is something I didn't even realize until this morning that it fits the continuity. But I'll share that one with you later, because we can't give all these things away.
Yeah, definitely let me know. Now you got me curious.
All right, Aaron. Well, thank you. This has been a great discussion. You and I've worked together for like, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour. You were on a tight schedule when we were shooting Justice League, and But I was happy to be able to meet you and work with you at that time. And I'm just excited, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Well, go shine your light upon other parts of unknown, and
All right.
we'll be catching up here pretty soon to start getting filming kicked off.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. You have a great rest of your weekend,
All right.
and take care.
All right. You too. Thanks.
Yep. Bye bye.